If your personal income is, let's say, $500,000 or more, for sure, not knowing the difference is costing you at least 50 grand a year. At least 50,000 a year. If your income is up into the million, $2 million, that number can be catastrophically higher. And the reason I say catastrophically higher is because we're talking about enough extra disposable income to make meaningful investments. We're talking about a free second home with the money being wasted on taxes. We're talking about, imagine if someone came along and said, hey, would you like this income producing apartment building for free? You would say, yes, please, thank you. Can I have another? And the answer is yes, you can have another, because if you're not wasting $50, $100, $200,000 a year on your taxes year on year, I mean, those are free apartment buildings. Those are free second homes. That's free college tuition for your children.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Business, Your Next Level. I'm your host, Eunicia Peret, and today I have a special guest here in the office with me, here in the studio, Rjon Robins. He is an esteemed author. He is a multiple times over business owner. And today we're going to talk about some really cool topics that are relevant to you because, as you know who you are. You are a badass entrepreneur. You're someone that already found success in whatever it is that you do in life. And yet there are some areas that either keep you up at night or you wake up at night with some deep questions. And today we're going to embark on a journey that addresses some of those questions because we know what they are. And Rjon and myself kind of speak the same language, which is why we're here today. So Rjon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. You caught me on my re-entry day. I've been gone for basically the last month. And so here I am. Happy to be here.
Here you are. It's such a pleasure. Rjon, because I didn't go into a very deep introduction of who you are and how you show up in the world. Please introduce yourself and tell our audience why is it that they should listen to our conversation today?
Because I'm so interesting. That's why they should listen. No, listen, I don't know what we're going to talk about. These are the topics that I normally do talk about. I normally end up talking about how to make your business work for you so you're not a prisoner to your business. I normally talk about how to get your business to work for you so you can take 30, 60, 90 days off, consecutive days off with defined emergency access only. And while you're gone, each of the 7 main parts of your business keep going and growing. You already know from the books the book that I wrote and what we talked about, that I'm a big believer in proactive tax strategy planning, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars on taxes. And, don't give the government a tip that you don't need to. Marketing, staffing, people who have an unhealthy relationship with money and how that just screws up your whole business, how to deal with it when you are now doubling, tripling, quadrupling your personal income and you got to break it to your family that you're no longer really interested in going on the kinds of vacations that they're going on and you want to take them along with you, but now it's all awkward because who's going to pick up the check? I don't know, whatever you want to talk about. Entrepreneur, life of an entrepreneur. Here we go.
Entrepreneurs, our listeners are entrepreneurs. We have several physicians, a lot of surgeons that are listening to the show as well. Basically, individuals that are wanting to think outside of the box.
And you own your own practice, then you are an entrepreneur. So one of my businesses is how to manage a small law firm. We manage over 500 of some of the most successful law firms in the country. Or just say we help to manage more than 500 of some of the most successful law firms in the country. And the first thing we do when a law firm owner comes to us is we say, you're not allowed to call yourself a lawyer anymore around here. You're an entrepreneur. When someone asks you, what do? You say, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I own a business that happens to be a law firm. You might be a doctor. You might be a surgeon. You might be, whatever your profession is, but the business is different than the profession. And so when you've got a scalpel in your hand, yeah, you're a surgeon. But when you're looking at the Excel spreadsheet, doing your financial projections to figure out how profitable the business is going to be and doing your profit roadmap and figuring out where all the money is leaking out of your practice, you're an entrepreneur running your business.
Let's talk about taxes, Rjon, because whether we're talking to a surgeon or we're talking to an entrepreneur in the business world, right? Somebody could be a highly compensated W-2 or they could genuinely be an entrepreneur. They own their own business. The reality is that a lot of the individuals that are actually listening to the show, they're consistently paying more in taxes than they should. They're constantly leaving a tip. And the whole idea, you and I talked about this just before the show, is many individuals will say, but I have a him or I have a her. These are my words. I have a financial advisor, I have a CPA, and they got it. They got my back. They've been with them for 20 plus years, 15 years, whatever that looks like. I trust them. Talk to our listeners today a little bit about why having a him or a her, whether it's a CPA or them or a financial advisor or somebody or some people that are just doing things, why that at the end of the day it ends up costing the individual significant amounts of money over the
Right.
short and the long term.
So here's the thing that most entrepreneurs that I've worked with, we're now into the tens of thousands of entrepreneurs that I've worked with over the past 25 years. Most entrepreneurs don't understand the difference between a financial accountant and a management accountant, and not understanding the difference between what is a financial accountant or what is a management accountant. If your personal income is, let's say, $500,000 or more, for sure, not knowing the difference is costing you at least 50 grand a year, at least 50,000 a year. If your income is up into the million, $2 million, that number can be, catastrophically higher. And the reason I say catastrophically higher is because we're talking about enough extra disposable income to make meaningful investments. We're talking about a free second home with the money being wasted on taxes. We're talking about, imagine if someone came along and said, hey, would you like this income producing apartment building for free? You would say, yes, please, thank you. Can I have another? And the answer is yes, you can have another, because if you're not wasting $50, $100, $200,000 a year on your taxes year on year, I mean, those are free apartment buildings. Those are free second homes. That's free college tuition for your children. These are meaningful amounts of money here that get wasted because, you're the best lawyer in the world. You're the most brilliant lawyer in the world. If I need to get a divorce, if I need an immigration case, if I need to file a patent, if I need to do a merger and acquisition, I'm definitely going to come hire you. If I need surgery, you are the person that I'm going to come to, right? But if you're really good at your craft, it means by definition, you have not invested that much time and energy becoming an expert on the business side of it, right? That means by definition, you have not been investing that much time becoming a tax expert, right? Because if you are really at the top of the game in terms of tax strategies, then you must be a really horrible doctor. You can't be doing both, right? You got to get your ego out of it and be rational about it, right?
So how do we impart you talked about the ego, and I love that you went there, because part of the ego is they've trusted historically. We hear this a lot. Well, they've been with, let's say, the CPA or the financial advisor, whomever they're working with for 15 years. They're really close friends, and they forget that.
CPA. Keep working with your CPA. Keep working with your accountant. Keep working with them. Look, I've got this hammer. I love this hammer. I crafted the wood handle of the hammer out of a tree that I grew from an acorn, and I melted the metal and made the hammer myself with my own two hands. It's the best hammer in the world, and I love it, and I'm going to pass it down to my children. But it makes a really shitty screwdriver, right? These are two different tools, right? You love your CPA, you love your accountant, love them, marry them, work with them forever. They're the greatest accountant in the world. That doesn't make them a tax strategist. These are two different things. One is a financial accountant. The other comes from a management accountant background. These are two different things. A chief financial officer is made out of a management accountant, not made out of a financial accountant, right? A tax strategist is a different thing altogether. There's the financial accountant, there's the chief financial officer, management accountant, and then there's the tax strategist. You've got a hammer, you've got a screwdriver, and you've got a wrench. These are three different tools. And saying that you need a wrench is not a criticism of your hammer. Greatest hammer in the world. You love your accountant, marry your accountant. I don't care. But don't let them be a tax strategist if they're not trained and experienced and focused on tax strategy. It's a different discipline, Yeah.
Same thing as we're going on so that's on the tax side. I love how you talked about don't penalize your screwdriver because they're not a good hammer, or vice versa. Same thing with financial advisors, just because they're your friends and they've been there for all this time, but you go to sleep asking yourself questions about what
That's the
else should you be
problem.
doing with
No,
money.
no, Nisha,
That also
that's the
doesn't
problem.
mean that.
Hold on. No, the problem is they're not asking themselves the questions. They're not going to sleep asking themselves the question. Your audience is not going to sleep asking themselves these questions. They're not losing sleep because they don't know the answers to these questions. They're not going around looking for solutions to these problems because they don't know they've got these problems. They don't know that they should be asking these questions. They don't know that they're walking around wasting all the money. If they knew they were wasting $50, $100, $200,000 a year after year after year after year on taxes, they would be looking for the solution, but they don't realize it. They don't know what they don't know that they don't know. And before anyone in the audience thinks I'm a giant asshole for saying it, neither did I. I didn't used to know that I was wasting all this money on my taxes either. I realized, I learned the hard way that I was wasting at the time 30, 40,000, $40,000 a year on my taxes. That was back in 2012, 2013, when the light finally got illuminated and I realized how much money I was wasting. And that's when I really started to dig in and pay attention and really began to school myself on this and surround myself and invest in people who really knew what they were doing. Every year, I save hundreds of thousands of dollars on my taxes because I know what I don't know, right?
Yesterday, I was talking to a client. They're a newer client to us, and they fit the profile for a client, for the type of clients that Excelstra works with. And at the same time, they're on the lower scale. And one of the things that came out from the husband was, how will I see the benefits? And literally, we sat down on that call, the call was not, it was supposed to be talking about tax strategy, investments, figuring out how to keep more of the money. And literally just on that call alone, looking at two different strategies, we uncovered over $1.5 million. And the challenge, just like you're saying, they don't know that they have this problem. They know that something doesn't feel right. What is your guidance to the individuals, to the business owners, the entrepreneurs, to the highly compensated W-2 employees out there, for them to open up their mind to say, it doesn't feel right. They got to do something about it. And part of it comes with, you have to invest in yourself. Arjon, what does feeling wrong feel like?
It feels just
That's a
like
great question. What does it feel like? Let me give you a perfect example. 2 days ago, I got a call from a surgeon who said, I am tired of paying. Her words verbatim were, we're doing everything that we think that we've learned can be done, and I'm still paying more than a third of my salary to taxes, and I'm tired of doing that. It feels like the more I work for the IRS. How should someone like that shift their parameters so that instead of wrong and it feels right, they can say, I need to look at things differently? And oh, by the way, it's going to come with some sort of an investment to have the right people on their side.
They don't know they're wrong. They think they're right. They think they're getting great advice. They don't think they're getting bad advice. They think they're getting good advice. They feel like they're getting good advice. They feel like they're doing everything right. That's why they're not calling us to hire us, because they feel like they're right. They don't start to feel any urgency to hire anyone to help them. They don't feel any urgency to get a second opinion. They don't feel any urgency to educate themselves, to discover what their options are, until they have that moment of realization, I might be wrong. See, being wrong feels just like being right. Realizing you've been wrong all along, that's the feeling of discomfort. That's the feeling of embarrassment. That's the feeling of urgency to do something about it. So you've got thousands of people watching this show right now who are wrong, including you. You're wrong about a bunch of stuff right now, and so am I. We're both wrong about a whole bunch of things in our lives and businesses right now because we're not omnipotent. We don't know everything, right? And The reason we allow ourselves to keep being wrong about the things that we're wrong about in our businesses is because it feels like we're not wrong. It feels like we're right. It's not until we discover that we're wrong that we do something about it. I've got an employee. I believe the employee is doing a great job. And one of them, I've got over 100 employees, and I'm sure that one of them right now is not doing a great job. But it feels like they are. And I think that they are because obviously, if I knew they weren't doing a great job, I'd do something about it. So you got people in this audience right now, thousands of people watching this podcast, listening to this podcast right now, who are perfectly happy with their CPA, and they don't realize that their CPA isn't doing the job of a tax strategist. The CPA may or may not be encouraging them. Some CPAs are very ethical and very professional and very, their ego is strong enough to say to their clients, listen, I'm a great CPA. I'm a fantastic financial accountant. And what you need in addition to me is a wrench. I'm a terrific hammer. You also need a wrench. Let's go find you a great wrench. Unfortunately, some CPAs, they don't really understand tax strategy well enough to tell their clients that they need it, or they're insecure. They don't want to appear like they don't know everything because they got a weak ego. Or some of them are just so bad at marketing and so bad at sales and don't know how to run a business that they're worried about where the next paycheck is going to come from. And so they fear losing the client to the wrench, as if the hammer is ever going to lose a client to a wrench.
So how do those individuals that don't know, Rjon, they don't know they have a problem. They don't know that they need different types of accountants on their team. They don't know that just because they work with other experts doesn't mean that they have to replace the team members that they're working with. It does mean that the team members that are already on their team, be it a financial advisor, being a CPA, be it a investment banker, or being an attorney sometimes, that they need to learn to play nice in the sandbox with everybody else that does bring that extra expertise to the table. How does the listener that thinks everything's fine and perhaps doesn't want to be proven that they were wrong all along, how do they get out of their own way?
So those are two different questions. First question, which is how does a person who has a strong enough ego to consider the possibility that maybe there might be something about an entire area of expertise that you've never studied, that you've never practiced, that you've never done before. There might be something that maybe you don't know, right? Here are some telltale signs. One, how much are you investing, not spending, but investing? How much are you investing on tax strategy services? If you're not investing at least $5,000 a year just on tax strategy itself, you're not getting anything. You're not getting tax strategy. If your income is $500,000 a year and up, and you're not investing at least $5,000 a year on a tax strategy, then you're not getting tax strategy. And I don't care if your accountant throws a few crumbs your way when it comes tax time. That's not a real tax strategy. If your personal income is $1 million a year and you're not investing at least $10,000 a year in dedicated tax strategy, you don't have tax strategy. All right. Number two, timing. Does your accountant, does the person you think is doing your tax strategy for you, are they doing your tax strategy for you at the same time that they're doing your tax return? They're doing the tax strategy at the same time they're doing the tax return. They're not doing a tax strategy. You can't do a tax strategy at the same time you do a tax return. And anyone who tells you that they're doing a tax strategy for you at the same time they're doing a tax return, they don't even know what a tax strategy is.
Deja
Right?
vu. A lot of tax
Either they
strategies.
don't know what a tax strategy is or they're lying to you. Take your pick. Either way, a tax strategy cannot be done at the same time that a tax return is being done.
So, Rjon, I'm going to interject here for a quick minute for our listeners. A tax strategy, whenever you're talking about tax strategy, it has to be done, in some cases, a year or two in advance. Some of the tax strategies require a year plus a day or more for them to be in place before you can even claim some of those things on your tax return. And worst case scenario, it has to be done months or every single quarter. And it's not just like Arjan said, when you do your taxes, that's when you do tax strategies. It doesn't work that way. You also said something, Arjan, earlier about the little bones that the CPAs are throwing that they're calling
Crumbs.
tax strategies. Crumbs. It's even worse. The little crumbs that your CPA is throwing out, calling them tax strategies, they're not tax strategies. They're deductions. Your house, renting your office, and paying your children, those are not tax strategies. Those are right there in the tax code, and they're almost table stakes. If you do those things and your business legitimately can sustain that and should sustain that, they're not tax strategies. So if your CPA calls some of those things tax strategies, just know that, just like Arjan said, you're not talking to someone that understands tax strategy. You're talking to someone that pretends to understand tax strategy, possibly because either they don't know or they don't want to show that they don't know what they're talking about.
Or, in fairness, they might know what a tax strategy is, but lack the courage or the conviction, or their business might run so badly that they're afraid to charge what you need to charge for a proper tax strategy. You use surgeons as an example. I don't know what heart surgery costs, right? But I sure as hell don't want to be shopping for price, right? You if a heart surgery, I'm making this up, I have no idea what the price is for heart surgery. Let's just say it's $50,000 for a proper heart surgery, right? And someone comes along and says, I could do it for half off. Every surgeon knows that the only way you could do a heart surgery for half off is by cutting a whole bunch of corners, right? Or you're so desperate for money that you're willing to work for half price because you're so desperate and you're so stressed out and you're so worried about how to pay the mortgage. But is that really the mindset you want your surgeon in? When my son was born, I went to the OBGYN, the doctor who delivers the babies.
Yes.
And I said, what are you going to be doing the day before you give birth? Because we had a scheduled C-section. So we knew on the date and the time when it was going to happen. I said, what are you doing the day before? And he's like, I don't really know. I hadn't thought about it. I said, well, think about it. I want to know what you're doing the day before. And he goes, I don't know. I guess I might. I'm like, no. You are taking the day off the day before you deliver my son. You need to promise me you're taking the day off, and you need to tell me what you're going to do to take the day off, that you're going to relax so you show up as the best version of yourself the day you deliver my son. Don't you dare scrub your toilets or get in a fight with your spouse or deal with a bunch of bullshit that's going to aggravate you the day before you dare deliver my son. So my point is, you might be dealing with an accountant who knows what a proper tax strategy is, who knows what it costs to deliver a proper tax strategy, but they just might be so desperate for money that they're not willing to sell it to you because they're afraid you'll say no. Oh, so the answer is, if they're not meeting with you in the fourth quarter of the year and saying, we need to be sure we're clear on your strategy for next year, you are not getting tax strategy services.
And sometimes, as you're listening and you're wondering, what in the world does Eunicia keep talking about, specifically when we talk about tax strategy and planning and coordinated approach and all that, for many of our clients, it is May right now, or April, or March, or whatever it is. And we're already starting to talk about strategies that we know the clients will need well before we even get into that fourth quarter. That fourth quarter, to us, needs to be more of, it's a refining point. It's a question to say, okay, knowing everything that we know, based on everything that the business has done, based on all the needs of the business, based on the things that can and cannot be done, should or should not be done, what refinement points do we have? That's what, in my mind, should even happen in the fourth quarter. A lot of the things need to start being discussed even prior to that, because if not, if everybody's trying to do the same thing in fourth quarter, how many people do you think are actually going to get through and get their strategies done? Very few. And it takes persistence. And Arjan, you talked about it earlier. It takes having a team that will fight for you.
Run out and buy a new car, run out and spend a bunch of money at the end of the year is not a tax strategy. If your accountant is telling you at the end of the year, hey, you need to go out and spend this money to burn off some expenses to save on taxes, that is a giant red flag waving in the air that you don't have a tax strategy. A good tax strategy, it's boring. It's not supposed to be like a big rush, right? It's intellectually exciting because you're doing a lot of really interesting intellectual exercises and what ifs, and you're doing a lot of cool strategic thinking. It's very, very creative. But it's kind of like going to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned, right? It's supposed to be uneventful. You go every 6 months to get your teeth cleaned. You're never going to have it's never going to be a big deal. It's always just maintenance. So you do a tax strategy, big lift tax strategy, and then it's quarterly maintenance, quarterly maintenance, quarterly maintenance, quarterly maintenance, quarterly maintenance, year after year after year, quarterly maintenance with a once a year annual review and update, and the rest is quarterly maintenance. That's a tax strategy. That's how I save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on my taxes, because this is what I do with my tax strategist.
And that's exactly what our clients experience as well.
By the way, I also do that with my estate planning attorney. I also do that with my professional insurance advisors. I also do this with my intellectual property attorney, because every quarter I'm creating more intellectual property that's got to get updated. The point I'm making is a professional, like a real entrepreneur who takes your business seriously. Managing the business of your business. Look, managing the business itself is one thing. Managing the business of your life and the wealth and the insurance and the estate planning and the tax strategies and the real estate holdings and all the other things that the wealth creates. I mean, this is why people, I'm not there yet, but this is why ultra wealthy people have a family office. And until you have, $100 million of investable assets, you're probably not going to have a family office. And so you got to do it yourself.
Or you realize, this is what I tell individuals, at some point in time, if you are above $2 or $3 million in revenue, or if you are a highly compensated individual, you've outgrown the traditional model. You've outgrown the traditional CPA model. You've outgrown the traditional financial advisor model. You've outgrown some of the cookie cutter, even law approaches and things that are being offered to you. You've outgrown them. But you're not quite yet at exactly what you said, Rjon, in the family office space. And even there, even in the family office space, sometimes it takes a whole heck of a lot more than $100 million to really get that customized outside of the box every single year, not the cookie cutter over and over again. So if you are in that in between and you're not asking yourself the question of how could this be better, why aren't you asking yourself the question? Is it because you don't want to reckon with the fact that you might have been wrong? Or is it that, I don't know, there's something else that's holding you back? How should those individuals, Rjon? I'd love that perspective from you before we conclude for today. It's been a packed session. How should individuals break free? We talked about, you deciphered through they don't know. Let's focus on the individuals that they have a feeling, they know that they might have outgrown their team. How do they get past their own insecurities to say, I need to invest in proper support. I need to be okay being vulnerable, because when they're in that place, magic happens and a lot more money gets to be held and put back into the business, into the family, whatever it is that they're wanting to do with that additional money.
Well, this is where I'm going to pitch my book. And that's the only thing I've got to sell today. My business has had a waiting list for the last 3 years. I currently have a 6-month waiting list for new clients. I'm not here to sell anything to your audience other than hopefully they buy my book on Amazon, which I promise you, $20 book is not going to change my life. But I do really think the book could change the reader's life. And I feel very passionate about the content of this book. And the title of the book is Truth, Lies, Mistakes, or Bullshit. What's driving your business? And so you want to know, how does a person, one, discover that they might have an enormous opportunity, savings, and more profit in their business, and then savings on taxes and other things from their business, to identify all the profit leaks from their business. Truth, lies, mistakes, or bullshit. And we talked about some of the things. Anyone with at least if you have $500,000 a year or more of personal income from a business, and you don't have an annual meeting with an estate planning attorney, if you don't have an annual meeting with a intellectual property attorney, if you don't have an annual meeting with an insurance advisor, life, health, property, umbrella, if you don't have a key person, if you don't have a annual meeting with a tax strategist, and I'd love you to have an annual meeting with a private banker too. If you don't have these 5 meetings scheduled every year, at least once a year. And I'd love for you to also be meeting quarterly with at least your tax strategist and at least your tax strategist once a quarter. If you don't have these 5 things, then you are definitely leaving a lot of money on the table and putting yourself at risk and putting your family at risk, because it's not a question of whether or not something's going to happen in your life and cause you to need insurance, cause you to need an estate plan, cause you to need a relationship with a private banker, cause you to need to have a tax strategy, cause you to need, well, intellectual property may be different. It's not a question of, it's a question of whether. I'm sorry, when. It's when, not whether.
When.
Sooner or later, it's going to happen, right? And you either are, everyone knows this is going to happen eventually. So that's how you know whether you need it. The other part of the question is to the person who kind of knows, right? Your audience is all highly educated, very experienced, sophisticated, successful people, right? You don't have dodo heads in your audience.
No dodo heads in our audience. Absolutely
right?
not.
So everyone kind of knows it. So everyone kind of gets it. And if they've been listening to your podcast, they've heard it a couple of times, right? And the thing is, you got to take your ego out of it and really look at it like a game. It's a game. It's a fun game. If you like playing Monopoly, if you like playing any kind of games that require strategy and understanding the rules and knowing how to use the rules to your advantage and knowing how to turn, the roll of the dice to your advantage in the game, then tax strategy, estate planning, insurance strategies, it is so much fun. And you got to think of it that way and not think, oh, I'm such a loser because I don't know this stuff. You know what? None of us knew this stuff when we started. And I'm constantly learning new things. Listen, the strategies that I was so impressed with myself for using when my income was $500,000, I look back when my income got to $1 million. I was like, wow, that was pretty basic. And now my income is significantly higher than $1 million. And the strategies that I used at $1 million, they also, one last thing, as your income goes higher, new strategies become accessible to you. There's strategies that would have been completely inappropriate for me to think about and use at 500 or $1 million or 2 million that now are terrific. And there's strategies that I know there are people who have significantly higher income than me and significantly more assets than me. And I look forward to the day when I can use those strategies and learn about them. And when I do learn about them, I'm going to approach it with the mindset of a beginner. And this is a real challenge for doctors, lawyers, anyone who's really at the top of their game, is to find the humility to go into a new area with the mindset of a beginner. And that is my advice on that.
I love it. Rjon, that has been beautiful, such a just tremendous value. As you're listening to this, the link to Rjon's book will be in the show notes. Truth, Lies, Mistakes, or Bullshit. Which one is driving your business? Go check it out. And I want to also challenge you. Feel free to go back and listen to some of the podcast interviews that we've done. There is a nuance of what we do at Excelstra through every single one of them. If you're ever wondering, why do we have such a variety of different individuals coming onto the show, badass entrepreneurs just like yourself? It's because the things that we talk about apply to everything in life. And just like Rjon said, if you don't have those meetings at least once a year, it's a problem. If you're not meeting with your core team at least once a quarter, it's a problem. And here's what I'm here to tell you, to poke the bear just a little bit more. If you do not have an unbiased person or a team in your corner that can decipher through the different things that your individual team members might be telling you, that's a problem in itself. How do I know it? Because I can't tell you how many individuals we've spoken to and the things that we see when we start working with clients. Once again, having a him or a her or a they, everybody doing their own thing on their own little island, does not mean that you're building a world. Your world should be intact and it should be collaborative, and everything, it's like an organism. Everything should work together. So if it doesn't, if you're not having those meetings, and if your team members, your financial advisor, your CPA, your attorney are not bringing some of those thoughts to you, and if more importantly, they do not feel comfortable being challenged, you probably need to be asking yourself some stronger questions. Check it out. Check us out. Go to excelstra.com and let's have a conversation about what that could look like, because it's not just about a one-man show. It's about having a team that can help you coordinate and collaborate in those areas that, frankly, you might be having some blind spots. And the idea behind having a team is to make sure that you overcome the blind spots and that no stone gets left unturned. And until next time, stay tuned for your next episode of Your Business, Your Next Level.
Thank you for joining us on Your Business, Your Next Level podcast, where it is all about helping you make more, keep more, and elevating your business to the next level. To learn more, make sure you head over to www.podcast.excelstra.com and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Again, that's podcast.excelstra.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.